What's good, fam? It's Alexus Rhone. I am the host of Crazy Aunties, or Crazy Aunties is how we say it in the South. And I am here with my brother, Brother Ghazi Muhammad of Ghazi Speaks. What's good? Come on, say hey to people.
Hey, how you doing, my sister? This is Brother Ghazi. I'm very excited to be here with my sister, Alexus Rhone, and see what Crazy Auntie talking about today.
Absolutely. You know what? Crazy Aunties is, for those of you who are new to listening, Crazy Aunties is the podcast that's dedicated to the guardians of an unfiltered truth. That's what it is. For those of us who have aunts or godmothers or uncles or godfathers, but I typically do focus on the women who don't have children and who have a very sort of uncensored, unfiltered way of seeing the world. We now have a space to just come in and get it out. It's like I feel like the world would be better if folks would just listen to us, because look, I'm going to tell you, we got some truth. I think there's going to be a lot of truth right up in this space right here. Most definitely keeping it 100, yes. So guardians of an unfiltered truth, that's what we're going to be talking about. And it's so interesting. Both of us are faith practitioners. Both of us are very active in our respective faiths. Me as a Christian and minister in the United Methodist Church, and you as a member of the Nation of Islam. And we both have, our childhood memories and images and things. Did you have like religious people versus non-religious people in your family that were always, getting into it, or?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Okay.
From the time I was a child, I can remember that, man, from really a very early age.
Really?
I can really remember that.
Yeah.
The kind of conflict. And oftentimes the religious people would tend to judge the non-religious. Mm-hmm. But the truth of it, some of the religious ones was crazier than the ones that wasn't religious.
You know what?
They raised more hell than the ones that wasn't religious sometimes.
Oh my God, I feel like that's the thing about religious people. They're like, look, I can just repent, and me and Jesus are, me and Allah, we're going to be good. Yeah, like, right. I'm going to act a fool, and then I'm going to go apologize.
Sunday morning, I'm going to pray for it.
Absolutely. I'm going to take communion twice.
Right.
I'm going to be good.
Yeah, that's right. That is true.
Yeah, my family, we had, basically it was two practices, folks, everybody was, janky, but you had folks who'd either run to the altar or those who'd run to the bottle. And that was literally how we were separated. Yeah. Those who got drunk and those who, would go to the altar and would labor there. And, I just often wondered, what was behind your altar visits and, behind all that alcohol consumption, because there were always deeper things, right. Much deeper. But like you talked about, you're younger, you're seeing it, you can't really speak to it.
And I just remember when you say alcohol, I remember the time when my grandfather passed, and I had to be about 11 or 12 years old, and I believe he had cirrhosis of the liver from drinking all the time, and he walked. Since I was a young boy, he would always walk to the liquor store to get his little pint, and he had a cane, and he would always walk to the liquor store and get his pint and drink it, But even on his deathbed, he wanted a drink.
Ooh.
And my family went and got him a drink. I remember
wow.
we were all at the hospital.
Okay.
We were all up in Veteran Hospital in St. Louis. And he wanted a drink, and someone was saying, no, he ain't getting no drink. And I just never forgot. They're like, well, hell, he died anyway. Go and get him a drink.
That was his last day?
Yeah.
Wow.
He died maybe a couple hours after he take his drink, But I always, growing up, I have mixed feelings of controversy. Mixed feelings about that,
About giving him the drink or about?
Yeah, because I be thinking as long as you're living, there's hope.
Okay.
I think sometimes we give up too quick and too soon.
Okay.
We just put too much faith in the doctors and the medical practitioners.
True.
And not enough faith in the spiritual world and the power of our own mind. That if I change my mind and change my diet and activate a deeper spiritual side, then maybe something can change.
Do you believe that there's a point of no return where look, it just is what it is?
I believe the point of no return is when you don't return.
You don't get to decide that up front?
Nah.
Okay,
I believe in, fight it until you expire.
Yeah.
So you take your last breath,
Yeah. That's...
Because I've seen people go all the way, and come back.
Okay.
Like my mother, she passed a couple years ago. But I remember the doctors, she was in hospice probably 4 or 5 times. literally in hospice. And they were saying she got 6 weeks to live and 8 weeks to live. And 12 years later, she was still on deck. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
And I seen her get real little, down 80 pounds, 80, 90 pounds, like real sick, where they were saying there was nothing they can do but medicate her and stuff like that. And she bounced back from that. And then again and again and again. And we was preparing for years for her funeral. Like 15 years before she died, we were preparing for her funeral.
Wow.
Literally. Time and time again, we all knew it was just a matter of time.
Yeah. Okay, so then, that explains why you feel that way, because I was like, look, okay, let Papa have that last drink, but certainly if your experience has been, okay, no, my mother, they told her like 15 years earlier that she only had 6 weeks, 15 years later, so, that makes sense. Is there room for a sick person to decide, hey, here is how I want to treat my body and however long I want to be here?
Yeah, I think
or however long I have?
Yeah, I think all of it is like people's choices.
Okay.
It's on you. You can take yourself out right now. You want to, you can just keep. Sometimes people be tired.
True.
And I think when at the certain point that my mother did pass, transition to the ancestors, I think she was just tired.
Yeah.
I think she was just tired.
Yeah.
And it was just like, enough is enough. I done been through enough pain, up, down. I'm just tired, you know? And I think once you get to that point where you're just tired and your will to live no longer exists, it's shortly after that, you're going to be out of here.
Yeah.
Because you got to have that will to live. And I remember they told my mother, because she was in a wheelchair at one time, and she was real sick, and she bounced back up out of that. And I remember I was at the doctor visit where they asked her, how are you walking? She said, man, I got too many damn grandbabies to be in this wheelchair. I ain't got time for all this, And but she had just a strong will, her mind was just something. Even though they were saying, she was on, the highest pain medication.
The morphine and stuff.
Yeah, she was on all that stuff, They kept her drugged up all the time. But sometimes she wouldn't take that and just her will to live. Like, I got too much to do. I ain't got time to die right now. I'll die later,
I love that. Currently in a space right now with my maternal grandmother, who the doctors had given up on like 2 years earlier. I'll never forget, like 2 years we were in the hospital 2 years ago. And one of like her primary care physician was like, okay, yeah, y'all need to go ahead and prepare for the end. And so we calling folks, tell them to come to the hospital. And, my uncle is in the room, like in one of the hospital rooms, like next door to grandmother, just bawling, just uncontrollably. And we didn't know what to do. And then the surgeon comes in and he like, what y'all doing? We're like, well, the doctor just said she got, like we got to go ahead and like get ready for her end. And he was like, it ain't time. Like, that's not her end. And he was so confused. And I often wondered, like, what the conversation was like between that surgeon and that primary care physician, especially 2 years later. Grandma's still here. And
she's still here now?
Absolutely. My mama just posted a picture on Facebook where grandma was like wearing my mama's shorts. And my mama posted, like, her comment was something like, she looks better in them than I do. And then she had told my grandma, she says, show me your teeth, like, smile, show me your teeth. And grandma say, well, you ain't gave them to me yet.
Hey, go get them off the dresser over there. That's funny.
So she got so much spirit. I'm like, she got way too much sense. And so I feel like, for her, whether it's her will to live or whether it's just our family's like immense love for her and we ain't ready to let her go. I don't know what's going on, except God is like saying no, like she's still here. So while she's here, we're gonna love upon her. Yeah, we're gonna do that. All right, Alexus Rhone here with Crazy Aunties. My brother Ghazi Muhammad of Ghazi Speaks is hanging out. We're here talking about the religious versus the non-religious members of our family, like what those contentious fights were like. Did you ever, in growing up, have a situation where, the religious and the non-religious folk, they had a moment of sanity? We're like, okay, look, we're gonna all keep it together. We're gonna be good to each other right now. Any good stories? Or is it always drama between the religious and the non-religious?
No, I think when my grandmother was still alive, and She passed back in the 90s. But when she was still alive, she kind of kept the family together, you know. You know how that generation probably was the last of the generation overall that still have family reunions and stuff like that. Like family, but most families don't do that no more. You know? Very few that still get together.
It's so inconvenient. Right.
Everybody doing their own thing. People that moved out and all that. But back in them days, Grandma made sure everybody get together, and I had some aunties, great aunts, Aunt Lily Mae and Andrea, and all them, you know, the elders. Yeah. They would get together and cook like Big Mama and them, you know. Yeah. And they would make sure everybody get together. And I think during that time right there, that's when even the religious, non-religion, because you know you got your uncle that come over drunk, you know, your uncle, you know, your auntie that come over crazy, and you know, because you want everybody to come over, you know. Right. There's no judgment. Just come over, get something to eat. Yeah. You know, hang out with the family, you know. And but then I found oftentimes the religious ones and the self-righteous ones would judge them, and they'd be like, "Why she coming?" Because you know the ideal is everybody contributes something to the pot. You know, if you bring water, then you bring bread, then you bring this, you bring that. But then you always have that family member who just ain't got nothing. Yeah. Like just ain't got nothing, and that because they know they don't have nothing. Sometimes they be like, "Well, I ain't coming." And then there'd be some of us in the family, like myself, like, "Man, come eat anyway. I ain't trying to hear that. Man, you be good, man. You fam." Right. You know what I'm saying? You know? Right. And then you have some people in the family that would talk and look down on them. You know what I'm saying? I remember hearing that. My mom like, damn, but this family though. Yeah. You know, and they on drugs, they alcoholics or whatever. But this family though. I mean, straight flesh of our flesh, blood of our blood, bone of our bone. This straight family right there. We can't give them a piece of chicken because they didn't contribute. I just, you know, I couldn't rationalize and reconcile that with logic. You know? Yeah. You know, I can't remember. I literally don't have, like, growing up as a child, I don't have any good memories of the religious versus the non-religious. And then there was this one group that all joined this particular denomination. And they like, woo, like stuff really got intense at our holiday gatherings. And it just got to a point where I was like, I don't really like holidays. Because holidays means that we're going to come together and it's not going to be, you know, the white folks and they all with the sleds and all that kind of stuff. They got snow and they having a good time and, you know, taking the pictures right around the ears. And, you know, my family sitting there having an argument about, you know, what the Bible says about women wearing jewelry or makeup or, you know, that kind of stuff. And it seemed like, okay, you know, I'm not sure God is going to send a woman to hell for, you know, makeup and jewelry. I could be wrong. I doubt I am. Right. But, you know, I just remember having, you know, just remember that being a part of the discourse, and it was never fun. It was just, it wasn't fun. Yeah. And so it didn't get fun until we were, till the young people were adults, and, you know, we were able to plan and to, you know, to do the different things. And so, and then we, you know, the younger ones who grew up, you know, we didn't have all of these hang-ups about religion. We didn't have all these hang-ups about, you know, makeup and King James, right? You know, by then we were reading the NIV, you know, it's the national, New International Version of the scriptures, which was a lot kinder to women. The King James. So, you know, we just had a different flow. We you know, we weren't caught up on that. So. And so, see, with my family, it wasn't like never that extreme or nothing. Okay, so y'all didn't have those extreme. Okay. No, we was cause we was all crazy as hell. Like everybody was crazy. So even the ones that was religious, I mean, they go to church, but hell, they leave church, they might put that pistol in their hand, smoke their blunt, drink their liquor, hustle or whatever, then they gonna go to church back on Sunday, you know. Oh, and that was the extent of religion. I think one of the most religious ones in my family probably was, ritualistically, probably was my uncle, who brought me into the Nation of Islam, my Uncle Gregory. And I never forget a conversation. I was, you know, I didn't know who the Muslims was when I was young. I thought they was gangsters, you know. Okay. They used to wear long trench coats and them little hats, and I just knew they was packing, you know. And I'm like, man, my uncle them gangsters, you know, because he was the captain over the brothers, and he had a lot of brothers rolling with him often. So when he come in, I'm thinking they were like the mafia or something, you know. Wow. And but I remember a conversation. I was sitting on my grandmother's lap. I had to be about 8 or 9 years old, and my uncle was telling my grandmother that, you know, we pooling our money together. We're gonna get some land for black people that, you know, we can have our own separate country, like, you know.
Oh, wow.
And my
Okay.
uncle, my grandma was listening to him, and yeah. But then as soon as he left, she like, that nigga crazy. You know? I remember looking up at her, I'm like, man, but you just said,
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Because she's a Christian, you know. And she said, Lord, no white folks gonna kill her. That's it, you know.
Oh, wow.
And it was really, and I remember that so vividly, you know, because all the brothers came over with him and had these long trench coats on, so I was there like in awe of them.
Yeah.
And whatever he was saying to my grandmother, I don't know the extent of the conversation, but I remember him saying that, you know, we trying to buy some land and separating. My grandma was like, he crazy as hell. I ain't really know like that, you know. And she just, you know, she never accepted that, but he believed it.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Wow. So it was interesting. Like, and before you shared that story, I wondered whether, like, when you think of your family, was it you know, religious versus non-religious? I heard you talk about uncles, and not so much aunties, whereas with my family, when I think of like the religious folks, it was mostly women. Yeah. And I mean, of course, the men were preachers, so I had, you know, quite a few preachers in my family, but it was something about me as a girl being groomed by religious women in my family. That was riddled with shame. And I don't hear you talk about shame. I hear you talk about, hey, they were religious in the church, and then they, you know, packed a pistol and, you know, blunts.
Yeah. Because, afterwards. You know, my grandmother, she was very, like my grandmother, she would pray all the time. She's one of the most praying women I know.
Yeah.
She used to read that Bible and everything, you know. She was deeply spiritual, always praying for the family, you know. And, but my grandmother also, she a gambler. I mean, and I remember as a young boy cheating for her, you know. Because she would have, you know, I had all the signs and stuff, and the people she was playing with, they paying for money. I was just an innocent little child. But I started off at an early age, like, Granny. Like, my little toes, like, you know, and she'd be looking at me, you know, and they wouldn't think nothing of it. And guys, she was playing, and I'll be letting her know, like, he got a good hand, he got a hand, you know, you don't want to, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, wow.
But she would pray and all that. Yeah. But she would stay up all night to the next day gambling. Like, I mean, till the sun come up, and they be, you know, they was playing tonk. A whole lot of them, you know, they be playing tonk, you know. And just, you know, it was just something, and she would win, and I would always get my little cut, so.
It's so interesting how, whenever I think of tonk, I think of spades, dominoes. It never occurs to me that just because you're putting money on that game, that you're gambling. What if you're just having a good time?
Oh, no, they was gambling. I mean,
you're like, call it what you want. Yeah, they was gambling.
Yeah, you know, anytime you win and lose, I mean, you know, it's a gamble. And she was, you know, they didn't play for much back in them days, but back in them days, much didn't, it didn't take a lot to you know, bread was $3 or $4 back in them days.
Right.
You know? So,
right.
I mean, you could do something. But I just remember them days, and, you know, remember my grandmother stand up all night. And I used to always cheat for my grandmama, you know, I'm telling them, boy.
So you knew, like, what the good hand was and what a bad, okay.
My grandma taught me.
Okay.
I used to play with her, you know. And if she win, and then she would always give me a piece of the cut, and I would just take it and go to the arcade and get some cookies and candy and stuff like that, you know. And that was just all that thing, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Because my grandmother, she had a stroke, like years ago. I don't even remember, probably before I was born, maybe. So only one side of her body worked. And she walked with like a limp, you know. But I just remember this praying lady walking in the kitchen with that limp, and her I believe it was her right arm. It was like, you know, pretty much immobile, you know. Okay. And but she'd walk in that kitchen with that one arm and that one leg, and she'd make a big pot of oatmeal, 3-4 loaves of bread for toast, and I mean, she'd feed the whole neighborhood, you know, all our friends and everything, you know. And she was deeply, deeply, deeply spiritual in terms of her prayer for her family, you know. But she did all kinds of stuff. My grandma, and she carried that thumper with her. She packed the pistol too, you know.
All right, I'm Alexus Rhone, the host of Crazy Aunties podcast, and I'm here with Brother Ghazi Muhammad of Ghazi Speaks, and we are talking about like the religious versus non-religious people in our family. How do you think it would have been different if the because I love it. Like your grandmother sounds strong and committed, and also just kind of resolved. Like you call them, you like, yeah, we were gambling and I was cheating and that was a thing. But I still feel like she was celebrating. Like to me, that does not feel like a vice. And I think when I think of the whole religious versus non-religious people, especially when I was growing up, there always seemed to be a division, and it had to do with a, quote, vice. Who you having sex with that you're not married to? Why you getting drunk? Why are you pregnant and you're not married? That kind of stuff that seemed to bring a lot of shame, particularly to the women. So talk to me about like religious versus non-religious and those types of vices. It sounded like your grandma was having a good time,
Yeah,
but what about the other?
Well, like personally, my family was, we did a lot of good, but I don't know, when I was coming up, things that's considered vices were like normal. I mean, I thought everybody did this stuff. Like gambling, stealing, cheating, I thought everybody.
Okay.
Everybody we knew was, it's just what we did, and.
Okay, so we're going to continue our conversations on religious versus non-religious people in our family. And Ghazi, you were about to share, we were talking about how in my family the women had a great deal of shame-related, I don't know, it just always seemed like there was something that people were ashamed of and they were kind of writhing in that. Was it like that for the men, the religious men in your family, or the non-religious men?
No, we didn't really have that problem right there.
Because you were saying everybody you knew was stealing and
yeah, right. I mean, like our family was something. We had good people, still got good people in the family. But when I was coming up, some of the things that's considered vices was really normal to us. I mean, I thought it was normal. People hustled. I thought like that's what people do to get money. Like that's your first job, sell some weed or something. And because everybody was doing it.
My first job was babysitting, but okay.
Oh, baby. Did you smoke weed when you babysitting? You smoke weed? Because I was doing it at such a young age, growing up, my mother used to, one of her boyfriends was he was a hustler. And I used to like steal drugs and it was something, the first time I held a gun in my hand, my mother's boyfriend put it in my hand. I was 6. And they taught me how to shoot to protect the product when they weren't there. Because I was, I have a twin brother, but I was always like the older one between even my twin and I. So I was the oldest boy, even though I have a twin, And so, I remember shooting, the gun and they telling me if somebody coming here and we ain't heard, here's where it's at and, do what you got to do. And I'm 6 years old at the time, So to me, looking back on that now as a father, that's crazy as hell. But back then, I thought it was normal. Yeah. I thought it was cool. I thought that's what you're supposed to do. Like in case somebody try to come hurt your family, I know where the gun is. I'm gonna shoot them and save the family.
Wow. And at what point did it become abnormal? Like when you realized, did you have to wait till fatherhood to be like, oh, yeah, shit, everybody's first job ain't
no doubt
selling weed?
Yeah, I had to wait till fatherhood. I look back because during that same time myself, that's the first time I ran away from home because this man was like very abusive, threw me down steps, and he just smacked me in my face for doing little, silly childhood stuff, So I ran away from home at that time at 6. I left home at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they didn't find me till like 2:30 a.m. the next morning. And when they found me, I was in the liquor store finna steal some food because I was hungry. But I had already been through stores all throughout the day, stealing, eating food, and I was cool. And I had ran so far away from my house, And I remember when they found me, it was really something because I was in the liquor store and I walk in. You met at 2:30 in the morning, and I look at the man behind the counter, and I'm looking at him. Then I don't see him no more, so I'm like, I'm finna get my move. I got my little chips in my hand, and next thing I know, I got somebody grabbing me by my shirt. I'm like, yo, man. And then he took me in the back, and it was really something because he looking up on the news, and this was before Amber Alerts. They didn't have Amber Alerts, but this is back in the 70s, late 70s. And he said, boy, they got your picture all on the news. They looking for you. I'm looking up there, like, what the hell? And they had my picture on the news, like, he was missing at this time, and if you see him, and this guy called the police, and the police and my mother came over to the liquor store. My mother just hugged me and she cried, so hard, And I think back on that now, and I look at my children. I'm like, I would be crazy as hell if my son left the house at 6, at 8, and he didn't come. Man, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah.
But I did that, and it was normal to me. Yeah. There wasn't nothing wrong with that. I thought that was normal.
Yeah. I know your mom had, her expression, her boyfriend. What did your uncle say? What did, like, the other members of your family have to say about, like, do you have any recollection of, like, their coming to you in that space?
Yeah, they would always try to, like, talk to me because I was, like, the problem child. I was the white sheep of the family, so to speak. Okay. And some people say black sheep. I don't use black in
right. Not a negative context. Yeah, right, yeah.
So, and I ain't necessarily saying white is negative, but I definitely use black as negative. So, I was always the problem child from a young age, in juvenile, in trouble, mental. They say I was crazy, into a mental hospital. So since everybody kind of knew that's how I was, they always came to me like trying to like, hey, do positive, and I was with encouraging words. Nobody was saying go to church because my family go to church like that. They went, but not like that. Not back in them days. Now I got aunts and uncles that go every week. 3-4 times a week now. But back in them days, my family wasn't really doing it like that. They just prayed at home and things like that. But, I had uncles that would always come and encourage me. And it was something my uncle who was the Muslim, I guess that's what kind of got me more into Islam. Because my uncle who was a Muslim, he was strong and nobody played with him,
Yeah.
And he had that reputation and image. He was very disciplined. He was a martial, like black belt, and weapon expert. He did all kind of stuff,
Yeah.
And so my mother would say, like, I'm gonna call your Uncle Butchie to talk to you, and like everybody know, don't play with Uncle Butchie.
Right.
So he would come and talk to me, but he was gentle, and I remember the first time he took me to the mosque. I had to be about 11 years old, and I remember he bought me a fish sandwich and bought me a bean pie, and I'm sitting there looking at them, and the first time I went to the mosque, they was talking about pork, the pig, and I remember coming home, and my mother, she would make big dinners on Sundays. It was a tradition in our family, to cook a real big meal on Sundays, and she had pork chops and macaroni and cheese and all that on Sunday, I came home, I'm like, I ain't eating that stuff. I said, I'm not eating that. I say, Mama, they got the rat, the cat, the dog. They got a trichinae worm in it. You got a worm in it that go up your brain. She looked at me like, boy, what the hell you got? And then she tells them, oh, they brainwashing you over there, And,
so she ain't call Uncle Butchie no more? She ain't call Uncle Butchie no more? Like,
oh, no, I started going with him often then.
Okay.
Because I would call him myself.
Did you eat the pork chop?
No, I didn't. And if something, because my sister, my older sister, who today she don't eat pork neither, but back in them days, I remember she say, Mama, you ain't got to argue with him. That's more pork chop for me. And so she ate it. And I haven't touched pork since then.
Wow.
Since I was a young boy, I never ate it no more.
Wow. So the message resonated that deeply with you?
Oh, yeah, it did. Because I never heard it was so different for me. It was like another word. Like, what? Everybody eat bacon and ham and pig feet and chitlins and what? Everybody eat this stuff,
Yeah.
That was the norm.
Right.
So when I heard something so opposite, it was attractive because it was so different. Like, this stuff for real? He's saying you got a worm in it, and I
Yeah. Wow. That's Alexus Rhone, host of #Crazy Aunties podcast, here with Brother Ghazi of Ghazi Speaks, and we'll be right back. All right, we are wrapping up our time together. Been chatting with Brother Ghazi of Ghazi Speaks. I've had an amazing time with you, my brother. Thank you for joining me here.
Thank you.
Yes, but before I let you go, okay, I need two things. The first is, what's the craziest advice that was actually really good, like an unfiltered truth that you got from a crazy auntie, uncle, grandmama? Like, you talked about all the people in your family were crazy. So, craziest advice you got that ended up being like the best, like really, really good advice.
I think it was a time when I was going through relationship problems. And my Uncle Gregory, he told me something that my granddaddy told him. And he said, son, he called me son. He's my uncle, but he called me son. And he said, son, your granddaddy told me that blood is thicker than water, but cum is thicker than blood. That's what he told me. And he was telling me, what he was telling me was, don't put nothing before your wife. You know what I'm saying?
I love it. Okay, you know what? Look, that brother's metaphor was like, that was hella crazy. But I guess it stuck. Like it landed better than, hey, just like your wife.
Your family before strangers, but you put your wife and your immediate family before your broader family,
Yeah.
Yeah, it made sense to me. Yeah, that's my uncle, Gregory.
Craziest advice you've given.
The craziest
but the best, but it was good advice, yeah.
Well, right now, I'm in the position that my uncle was to me. To many of the young people in my family now. They kind of look at, even my cousins, everybody call me Uncle Reg. Everybody call me uncle, even if I'm not their uncle or not. And one of my little cousins told me recently, she said, it doesn't even feel right just saying you cousin because you like an uncle to us, Because I'm always giving them, positive advice, trying to, keep them on the straight and narrow, So I think some of the best advice that I would give, especially to the young men in my family, because I got a lot of young men in my family. Some of them are in prison now, Some of my cousins life without parole. They never get out of prison unless it's an act of God, divine intervention.
Yeah.
So I tell like a lot of the younger guys in my family, like to, I try to advise them to stay away from the hustle life, the way that's so normal to us, and to really, focus on something different because we're losing too many of them, too many of them are getting killed to the streets. So I try to encourage them to, look at life somewhat differently. And a lot of them have children. So, being a father, I really emphasize and encourage them to be better fathers and try to help them to see a fresh perspective on life being through the eyes of a father.
Right.
Not just through the eyes of a hustler and through a gangster and nothing but look at it through the eyes of a father. When you see it through the eyes of a father, your perspective changes, and what you start doing changes because now I'm a father. It's somebody else I got to protect and nurture and further in life,
What's interesting was that my question or my request was that you would give me some crazy advice, and that don't sound crazy. Right, that sounds hella seasoned. So
I don't really get too much crazy advice no more. I done had enough of it in my life.
Okay.
So I try to be positive.
What's the craziest advice that you've given that was like, okay, look, it's still true today. I ain't giving that advice no more, but it's still true.
Like, say it one more time.
The craziest advice that you've given that you're like, look, that's not. Like, it's not the way that I talk. That's not the kind of stuff I talk about anymore. But it's still, it's still true.
Yes. Well, I think probably the crazy advice that I've given people was, and it's something, because I haven't given crazy advice for many years. I started reading books a long time ago. And, I kind of changed my mind really.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But
you read them books and no more crazy advice.
Yeah. No more, at least it wasn't crazy to me. It might be crazy to them, though.
Okay.
But I do know, like one thing I had to learn was this right here, though. Some people I give advice to, I had to learn this right here. You know how you grow and you go through experiences. I'm 47 years old now. So I've experienced some things, relationships, been married a few times, going through rocky marriage now. Dealing with children, I've been a single dad, and so I've experienced some things, prison, streets, whatever. And I found myself giving advice to younger guys as though they walk my path in my shoes, and I really had to like grow to see that I can't give them that kind of advice because they haven't walked that path. I can't tell a young man who's going through marital problems. Man, the hell with that woman, man. She tripping. Bounce, bro. I don't know that drive you crazy. I had an afro at one time, but she ain't got no hair no more. Women, brother, women, And but I used to kind of talk like that because I didn't have a lot of patience with like nonsense and BS. I didn't have patience for that. Still don't have too much patience for too much madness when it comes to relationships, But some of them, they're in a different place, Their heart is different. Their mindset is different. Their reality is different. So I had to learn, quit giving people advice on what you've overcome and accomplished, and they never walked that path right there. You know,
Okay.
if they try to live that advice, it's gonna turn out all wrong. Even though it was good for me, you know. That's why the program I just started, Your Path, Your Destiny, it came about to me realizing that the choice you make is going to determine your destiny.
Yeah.
But it's your choice, though.
Yeah, your choice, your path.
Yeah, it's going to be your choice. Your choice is going to choose your path, and your path going to determine your destiny. But it got to be yours, though. So I really started being cautious on what kind of advice I give to people, and just try to like tell them, man, like follow your spirit, and try to give them some general good information just to support their decision or non-decision, and try to be fair and balanced. You know, because sometimes, you know, as a man, if the brothers come, you're gonna dog, man, it's her fault.
Right.
You know, when the women, when they get together, it's his fault. He did it, you know. And we gotta tend to do that, but I'm growing to really try to be balanced and look at both sides and tell the brother when he full of BS, like, brother, that's wrong, brother.
Yeah.
That's incorrect, brother.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes. Well, it has been so wonderful having you.
It really have. Thank you, sister.
Absolutely. I'm hoping to be able to pull you back in.
Oh, yes, man.
You know, your deep brother.
Crazy Auntie.
Crazy Aunties. Check us out.
Peace, fam.
Peace.